Naturally, parts do wear out under normal usage, even with the best of care. But your Chevrolet dealer knows that wear can be held to a minimum by proper lubrication.
Alright, so here's what we got going on with the front end on this car. If I go like this, you can see we got quite a bit of slop, and that is all in the steering gear. And that translates to a lot of slop going down the road in the steering wheel. It's not a very enjoyable ride when you're doing that. Another issue I see is the stabilizer links. Bushings are completely worn out, so we will have to replace those. Turn the brake drum here, get in here. Your spindle pivots on what is called a Kingpin, and that is a straight pin right in here. You can see how this pivots. Pull on the bottom, you can see I've got wear down here. Not terribly much, but it's enough. So I have ordered, you can see wear on the top also. So the pin is loose in the bronze bushings. So I have ordered a Kingpin set. Okay, we're here on the back side of the Kingpin. Make sure that comes out. Gonna put the nut back on temporarily. Came right out. Okay, there's our bolt. Shaped like a wedge, so it shouldn't put up too much fuss if it moves. Okay, now we have plugs in here on each end of the pin and then caps on the top. Kind of like a freeze plug in an engine block. So I'm going to tap up on the bottom and try to get these plugs out first. If I have the clearance here on the floor. I may have to figure out a shorter punch. Alright, so on each end of the pin you've got a plug and then a cap. The cap is pretty much like a freeze plug. I got the top one out already. And there it is. You just punch a hole in it and you pop it out. And then underneath that is a clip that you have to get out, and then the plug. Clip and the plug. So I need to get the bottom out and have to get a shorter punch because I'm too close to the floor to swing a hammer, and then we'll get those clips out. Alright, the plug was missing on the bottom, and I know this is going to be very difficult to see among all the grease, especially if I don't show you on the camera. The tabs of the clip are right there, and I'll be sure to show you the clean one. Let's see if I can move this a little. Yeah, it's not going to move. But the two tabs you squeeze are right there to pull that out, and then the plugs will fall out, so I'm going to do that top and bottom. Okay, I'm going to try this for starters with just a regular needle nose. Should be able to get it done. It's hard for me to even see what's going on in there. Let's see, there's one. Okay, there we go. There's the clip. There we go. Now I should be able to get this pin out. There she comes. There we go. There's our pin. One of the bushings coming out. There she goes. I probably should have gotten something to put this on. Let's go ahead and do that. Or just fall. Well, now that I got all the tension off, you see how bad the lower bushing is. So that can't be helping any. So I've been scraping more history onto the floor and see if we can get this one out. Now let's remove the worn out stabilizer bar link. And these things always twist off, so I'm just going to cut it. Okay, these are old stock aftermarket pivot pins. This is the knuckle support. So this is the lower pivot pin. Now I've already replaced one bushing in the knuckle support. So this unit right there, I've already backed that out and put a new one in, and you just, I think it says actually in the book, with an 18-inch wrench as tight as a man can get it. That is spot on. So now I need to take one of these seals and we're going to put one down here. Get one over there. Well, you stay. Yeah, I'll have to do that in a bit. So let's start here instead. This one is going to go over the lower control arm on the front. I'll try and hold this second one on. It's on the rear. Okay. up on me. Well. Now, if the bolt doesn't want to thread into the second arm here, that's because they've spread out since you released it. So you need to take a C-clamp. That brake drum is right in my way. I'll try to rise above it here. You want to bring these back together. And this is just absolutely temporary. And just go a little bit, play around with it, see if you can get it to start. So I'm going to explain something about this lower pin, or bolt, or whatever you want to call it, and then we'll move on. But have you ever seen one of those lock nuts that looks like a regular nut, but it's been slightly squished, so it oblongs the hole? And then when you run a bolt into it, it rounds it out again, and it retains tension on it. Well, I'm pretty sure that's what Chevrolet did on this back control arm, the threads on there. They must have squished this just a little bit, because this pin gets very tight once you run it into there. Now, pulling this old one out wasn't too bad at all. But like I said, I have this aftermarket King quality, old school aftermarket parts. Something's a little bit different with the thread. I mean, just fractional, that it went in hard. So perhaps the brand new ones you get that are machined, modern machinery, maybe they're a little easier to run back in, but I'm pretty sure that's what they did on there. So you can expect it to go in hard, but that's what keeps it in. And now I need to get the grease zerk. Put a grease zerk in there, and that part is good to go. Now, the next thing up in our parade of steering slop is putting the new Kingpins in. If you feel like you've missed something, go back and watch the previous video on this car where I remove all 4 shock absorbers, go through them, and reinstall them. That's gotten us to this point. First thing I'm going to do is take a hone, and I'm just going to clean out this knuckle support, just so pushing the Kingpin in there goes a little easier. Doesn't need much. I just want to make sure the paint isn't going to put up any fight for me here. Now, the kit I'm using is a Moog 8282B. It is readily available from your parts house, and it is made in the US of A. Shocking! I've got a bushing in here yet I need to get out. There's the oldie. And I'm going to quickly scrape and clean the mating surfaces of steering knuckle here. Whenever I work on cars like this, it makes me wish I was doing a full restoration. Just so everything would be nice and clean. Groove for the keepers. Whoops, sorry. Alright, I'll get my new bushings here. And you do have to pay attention how they go. Just look at the grease zerk and try to line the groove up with the grease zerk is all you need to worry about. Top one and the bottom one. This is my Kingpin bearing, and the top is marked, so it will go like this. First thing I'm going to do, I hope this light doesn't blind you. I've got nowhere else to put it. But I'm going to try to set this assembly on the knuckle. Just like that. And we'll try to sneak the bearing in underneath. There, oh, it fits good. Are you seeing this? Let's see here. Yeah, you can see that. Oh, that's a tight fit. If you can probably tell, I've got the old Kingpin in there, using it as an alignment tool. I'll see if I can get it back out. Could be the next trick. But anyway, I've got these three pieces lined up now, and we'll see. The top one should follow in line. Alright, new pin, and we're just going to grease up at least the top half just to make installation easier. And then your machine flat spot goes towards the inside, towards the engine. Now when you put your bushings in there, they're going to come to a stop. They can't go all the way through. And when you have your Kingpin centered in there, you can feel in here, you can feel the bushings, and that Kingpin is going to be lined up with those bushings. So that's how you know how far up or down you need to have it. And then you just know you have it centered for when you drive your pin in. And if that machine flat spot is in the correct place or close to it, this should go in, which it certainly does. And we just put the washer and nut on the back. Alright, the Kingpin itself is secure in place. Now I did jump the gun on you a little bit because this was so tight. I don't know why, if these bearings are just a little bit thicker for some reason. But anyway, your kit's going to come with a shim pack, and you want to stick a feeler gauge when this is in here. You want to stick a feeler gauge in here and make sure you don't have no more than 6/1000 is what they want. And mine is practically a press fit. It fits so tight. I know I'm not going to use it, so I wasn't sharing that information. So, sorry about that. Now you'll have some what almost look like flat discs. There is a little cup to it, kind of like a freeze plug. And we will put those in top and bottom. And just center it the best you can. Unfortunately, you cannot get a straight shot at it, but it should not go in that hard. It should pop in there readily enough. And your replacement snap ring. Sorry. Get that to snap down in there. There we go. Turn it a little bit, make sure it's in the groove. I believe it is. And we got our plug. Okay, then you just repeat the process from the bottom. That's going to be terribly hard for me to show you doing this work on the floor, but you do the plug again, the snap ring, and then the cap. And if you remember what the slop looked like with the old one, well, I've got absolutely no slop now. I mean, it's still in the steering because of the steering box yet, but the Kingpin operation is a success. So I will get the bottom taken care of. We will grease. The grease zerks are on the back side. We will grease the pin, and we will move on to the next. Okay, I'm going to get the sway bar links in real quick. That is a K700. Oh, from Moog. K700. 534. Made in USA. Man, Moog, I'm impressed. You're doing good here all of a sudden. A little bit more modern of a style of link. I wouldn't say much for it as far as originality goes. It'll be just fine on this project. But if you're looking for something a little more original, you may not want to go with this. Better get this up there. But otherwise, it looks like a nice kit. Alright, there is that. I'm going to head over and do the other side, and then I will meet you underneath the steering box. And if anyone else makes you that offer, don't do it. So for those of you who don't know offhand, I thought I'd just take a moment real quick and show you what a steering gear looks like on the inside and what I believe is going on our 48 here. So here you have a cutaway view of the what they call the ball nut. These are ball bearings, and there's little channels in there, and then the nut has a serrated side to it that matches about 1/4 of a gear. This is called the sector gear and the sector shaft. This is what your pitman arm is connected to. This shaft goes up to your steering wheel. So if the ball nut and the sector shaft or gear were not in here, this shaft going through the steering column would just sit and spin round and around and around. And so this is basically like a hex knot on a bolt. You thread it on, it climbs, or it goes back off, on and off. So as you steer left or right, that's either going left or right on this picture. And those teeth move this gear left or right, clockwise or counterclockwise, and so then you get your swing of your pitman arm off that shaft. So what I think is going on is over time we've got slop or backlash between the two gears here, between these teeth and the sector gear teeth. So we're just going to try to tighten that up and see what happens. Okay, so there you see the steering gear. This is the sector shaft coming out of the bottom of the gearbox, and when we move our spindles back and forth, you can see some obvious wear there, which is not good. So originally I thought I had slop because it looks, I don't know if you can see that on camera, but it just looks funny, almost like the whole shaft is moving, not simply just rotating on an axis, but actually moving in the case, which would be, there's a roller bearing in here and a race and a seal, and I was worried that those bearings were shot because it just looks like it's, the whole shaft is wobbling side to side almost. But when I grab it and I try to make the shaft move side to side, it doesn't. It's just simply rotating, I hope. So we're going to try the adjustment as outlined in the manual, and hopefully that'll do it. Okay, so here's the top end of the gearbox. This is the bolt where we're going to get our adjustment from, and there's crush sleeves in there, so you can't just go horsing around on it, you know. There's 3 other bolts involved, here, here, and clear under there where you can't see it. We got to loosen those a 1/4 turn, and then we're going to loosen this lock nut right there 1/2 turn. Well, easy there, Turbo. I almost forgot. They want you to find center first in the steering. Okay, all the way. 1, 2, 3, 4. Was it kind of off center the other way? A little bit. Okay, so that should be pretty well centered. It's kind of hard to tell when there's so much slop in it. But we'll try to keep it right there. Alright, I've got a wrench on the bottom, on the bolt. I've got a crow's foot kind of halfway on it, on the top, on the adjustment nut, and I'm going to try to turn them in opposite directions. And you don't need much. I think the book says maybe 1/8 of a turn. Try a little bit more. Reset everything here. Okay, we definitely made an improvement. I am going to actually back it off just ever so slightly. It feels to me like there is just the tiniest bit of preload on it. Well, that absolutely 100% took care of it. I am going to pop this off, keep that 5/8 wrench on the back side, grab my distributor wrench because it's handy, tighten this down. I know, my big hairy arm's probably in the way again. And then go back down there, get the 3 cover bolts tightened up, and our steering is 100% better. We've got all the slop out of the Kingpins, new stabilizer links. Life is looking good. Now I think a guy might do the world a favor and put some gear oil in this gearbox. Sounds to me like it's running dry. You know, all the years that Chevrolet used a Saginaw manual steering gearbox, I don't think they ever specified a specific oil to put in the gearbox. If you look in your books, they just say basically use something that you would in any other gearbox, but that remains fluid when it gets cold. So you guys can use what you want. Personally, I prefer Wild Root Cream Oil. Mother loves it, and it contains lanolin, non-alcoholic, and it is great for training baby's hair. It might also be worth mentioning it removes loosened dandruff. Hey, it feels great to get tight steering back in this car. It is going to make it a whole lot better going down the road. So we got our 3 issues fixed. I need to clean off and grease all the tie rods. Speaking of tie rods, interesting setup. No idler arm. Both inner tie rods come to the pitman arm right off the gearbox. That is very different from your conventional setup that you might be used to. I was thinking about the steering setup on this car, and it really reminded me, took me back 20 years ago. I was a service tech at a Ford dealership. They need all the help they can get, let's be honest. And I did a lot of alignments. Now, I was 19, 20 years old, fresh out of tech school, and the heavy trucks would come in with their strange steering system that reminds me a lot of this. And man, those were beggars to get aligned. And there was one in particular, the lead mechanic had to come and finish it for me because I simply had enough. I had to adjust toe on one side and it would change the other, and I absolutely fought it for way too long. Anyway, why am I telling you about this? This is about a 48 Chevy. So what's next? Well, I'm still waiting on the glass. Otherwise, I'm going to do the door seals and at least one door seal. That one might be okay. Nah, it needs it. And exhaust system. I'm going to get a tailpipe made. Might work that together into one strange video, exhaust and weather stripping. Sure, why not? And then we will probably move on to another project. So thanks for joining me. God bless you guys. We will see you on the next one.